Hi there, welcome back to my channel Automate with Rakesh. Please do subscribe to my channel and hit on the bell icon to stay up to date on UiPath knowledge. In this video, we are going to go through a UiPath web automation. So let me first explain you what we are trying to achieve in this UiPath web automation. What I'm going to do, I'm going to type a word called Bangalore temperature. And here what I'm going to do, it's going to copy the text. So here you can see on Google, I see the temperature currently 23 degrees Celsius and there is a humidity value of 85% and the wind value is 5 kilometers per hour. So I would like to design a web automation which is going to run every hour, which is supposed to run every hour, and it's supposed to capture different values every hour, whatever the values are, the temperature value, the humidity value, the wind value. Every hour it might change, so I would like to capture it every hour or every day. It could be any frequency. So how this UiPath web automation can be designed, we are going to see. First of all, before we design that, let me first run the demo, and we are going to start everything from the scratch and will design the web automation. So let me run this file so that we get a clear-cut idea. Let me close the Google Chrome. Okay, so we'll get a clear-cut idea as to how this web automation is going to run. So now I have already started the designed workflow. I am already running this workflow. It will take few seconds. It has started. You can see on my taskbar. So the very first thing it is doing, right, it is opening the browser and it is going to type Bangalore temperature. So all this has to be designed through the web automation I'm going to teach you. So it has typed the Bangalore temperature, and then from the web it's going to capture the temperature, it is going to capture the humidity, wind value, everything it's going to capture. And once it captures, you can see it's still running. It should go and write it in the Excel file. Okay, so within no time it should write. Let me open the Excel file and see. You can see it has written the values with the new timestamp. Okay, the timestamp has been written as a new column. So how it is working, if you see, it is creating a new column every time it runs, right? Every time we are running it, it is creating a new column, and below that it's adding the values. So this is a dynamic way of doing things. And how this can be designed, let's see it. Okay, so let's get started from the very beginning. So all I will do, I am going to delete this and we are going to start everything from the scratch. Okay, now the very first thing we should know, for the web automation, what is the primary URL where we would be going. So here what we are doing, we are going to google.com, right, and then typing. So first of all, I will open google.com on the web browser. Okay, it is open. Go back to the studio. Now click on the activities panel, and here I would look for an activity called use application. Okay, earlier the older activities were open browser, attach browser. Those were the older application. This is the modern application. These are the advanced activities, modern activities. So I'm going to drag and drop use application browser activity. Simple. Okay, and then once this activity is there, I'm going to hit on. So ensure you are keeping the Google Chrome in the background. Coming back to UiPath Studio, and now I'm going to hit on the indicate application. Okay, the moment you hit on, it will go back to the previous screen and you should get a green symbol like this. And if this doesn't appear, that means you have not installed the UiPath extension for Google Chrome. Okay, so it'll give you a prompt, just install that, close the browser, install it, it will automatically install. After that, it should show you a green symbol like this. So click anywhere in the window. The moment you click, it understand you are okay with that, and is automatically going to capture the URL for you. So everything will be done automatically for you, very simple. After that, what would I like to do on the web browser? I would like to type something, right? So I'll use a type into activity. I will drag and drop the type into activity. Okay, so once I drag and drop the type into activity, right now what I want, I will again click on indicate in Chrome, and then where I would like to type, I would like to type here. So I will select this, simple. And then once you select the target UI element, then it's asking you nearby reference, right? This is the reference. For example, if you would like to reach somewhere, you would ask for a landmark, right? Similarly, for the UiPath to reach here, it is looking for a landmark nearby. I mean, this is also known as anchor. We call it as anchor. So I'm going to place this as an anchor, or maybe because this symbol might change, right? So I'm going to keep this as an anchor, Google search, whichever, which is going to stay permanently. I'm going to indicate that. And here in this window, selection options, I'm going to strict selector. Okay, I'm going to select this. So it is going to have it, this gives a extra clarity to the indicator. Okay, this is the exact selector, this is the fuzzy selector. These are different ways to detect a UI element. So even though you do not have any knowledge around this, doesn't matter. All you have to do, select and leave it, hit on confirm. Okay, unless if there is any kind of error comes, then we need to modify this, which is a different topic, completely different topic. But generally I have seen these are very flexible ones, hardly we have to modify anything. So just go with this and hit on confirm. As a beginner, as a learner, we would just go with that. Okay, so once this is done, once you have selected this, you are done. Now it asks you what would you like to type. So here you type your word. Let's say I would like to type Bengaluru or Bangalore, whatever the spellings are, Bangalore temperature. Okay, so this is what I would like to type. After typing, what you do, so all the actions that you take on the web browser, generally when if you type manually, right? So what you do after typing, you generally hit on enter, right? Enter is the action that you take. The same action has to be defined in this activity. Getting it? So here what I do, after typing what I need to type, I need to hit on enter. So I will click on this drop down and select enter. So that way this activity understand after typing I should hit on enter. Okay, and it is going to empty the field before typing. All these are by default, all these options are given. Okay, so it will type. So once it hit on enter after typing, it will come to this particular page. Now on this page, what are the things you would like to capture? So I will use an activity called get text. This is a very important activity during your web automation. So here I am going to drag and drop the get text, and this is quite easy to use. Get text, what is the meaning? The get text means it is going to capture the text from the web, okay, or any UI element. So here I am going to indicate, hit on indicate, and I'm going to select this specific option. So you don't have to highlight. Let me escape, hit on escape. So here you don't have to really keep highlight or anything. You can leave it as it is, and then you should go back to studio, click on indicate, and now select this element. Okay, soon after you select, you should give a reference to it. So I'll give temperature as the reference and hit the strict selector, hit on confirm. Done. So this way it is going to capture the temperature from the web. Now once it captures, where would you like to store that value? So I will create a variable and give it a name called temperature. Okay, and this variable is going to hold the value. It is going to hold the value. Same way we'll quickly copy paste, and for the second one I will indicate again, indicate target on screen, and I'm going to select humidity. Okay, this is the second value I want from the web. I'll select that. Again I'll follow the same process of selecting a nearby element as an anchor and select the strict selector. It's not really mandatory for you to select, but it's good practice to have it, and hit on confirm. So now humidity value is getting captured. Now what I will do, I'll delete the temperature because I have copied from the top one, and I'm going to create a variable and give it a name called humidity. So this value is going to store the humidity. Similar way, let's copy, paste, and indicate on screen, and then I want the wind value. So as many as values that you need from a web, you can keep on doing this for number of values that you need to really capture. Okay, so I've done it, hit on confirm. Okay, because these data are not in tabular format. If the data was in a tabular format, it's quite easy. Within a one click or one activity I can capture all the required data, but because there are different UI elements, this is the easy way to do it. Okay, so I've got 3 different get text, and now let me also, because this is wind value, I'm going to right click, create a variable, and create a variable called wind and store the value to it. Done. Now what you do, your main sequence that you have, right, which is saying sequence, is a good practice to change it. So here I'm going to say automate with Rakesh. You can give any name that you like. Okay. And all the variables that got created, right, as of now, and all the variables, what I'm going to do, so that I can access all these variables. See, if you see, only when I click on do, that's where the variables are appearing. So because the scope has to be changed to automate with Rakesh to the parent sequence. Okay, so that this variable can be accessed anywhere I need. Okay, all right. So this is done. Now so this part is done from the web. For as part of the web, what we would like to capture and how to capture, how to open the page, everything has been designed. It is going to capture. After capturing the data, what is the next step? The next step is it has to create a column in the existing Excel file. It should create a new column, and after creating a new column, it should write the name as per the timestamp, right? Whatever the current time is running on my laptop, exactly with the same name, it should type a name here. So to do that, what we will do, we will use a assign activity. Getting it? So the column names are as per the timing. So I am going to drag and drop an assign activity. Fine. Now in the assign activity, I am going to create a variable called timestamp. Timestamp. So this variable is nothing but the column name. Okay, so I'm using a variable called timestamp, and here in the timestamp variable, you can give any name. Okay, don't worry about the names. As per your convenience, you can give any name. Now timestamp. How do you capture the current time of the system? For that, there's a namespace called date time. Okay, I'm using the namespace date time. Hit on tab and put a dot and say now. Okay, this is the property date time dot now, and here simply say dot toString now dot toString. So it is going to convert the date time into toString format, and in the parenthesis you have the option to define the way you want. For example, I want dd m should be capital for the month, and then YYY for Y. That means today's date, month and year 2022. It's going to show, and I'm giving a space and writing HH, that means hour, small m, double M means minutes, and small ss means seconds. Getting it? This is the format. Now entire thing supposed to be closed within double quotes. Okay, this is the format. Just by doing that, what this will do, this is going to provide the timestamp to this variable. It is going to, for example, in the Excel, if you see, this is a timestamp. This timestamp will be automatically getting assigned to this variable. Okay, this much is done. So all the four values which needs to be written has been captured, right? All the four values we have captured. Now the next set of work that we have to do is with the Excel. And remember the timestamp variable that you have created. This also has to be for the entire sequence, so that this can be used anywhere in the sequence. So this much is clear, right? What this is going to do, this is going to open the browser, type Bangalore temperature, hit on enter, and then capture all the values from the web and storing into different variables. That's all the job of the sequence. Okay, once this is done, the next set of activities is all about dealing with the Excel. How do you write dynamically? It should write dynamically, it should write here. And how that can be done, let me show you. Okay, for that, what we will do, we'll simply type Excel. Okay, we'll simply type Excel, and the very first thing or the very first activity when it comes to Excel automation, the Excel process scope. This is again the advanced activities or the modern activities that is being used. Okay, and the classic activities are slightly different in nature. So here we are using the modern activities. Excel process scope I have used. Okay, now below this Excel process scope, I have to use Excel file. So any Excel activities has to be enclosed within the Excel process scope container, and within that I'm using the activity use Excel file. This is the file which is asking you, hey, which file are you going to update, or which file you would like to work on. So this is the activity which is asking you, and here I'm going to select this folder. Okay, and I'll go to the location where the file exists. I will select that file, hit on open. Simple. So this is clear. The first part is very clear. Now in the second part, Excel process scope, use Excel file, and I'm selecting a file. This much is clear. Wonderful. Now after that, what I would like to do, I would like to read the existing data. Okay, whatever the data is, generally, right, all that data I would like to read. So there is something called read. If you type read Excel, let me type Excel. There is something called uh, okay, let me type read. Yeah, read range. Okay, this is the activity, read range activity. I will drag and drop. Okay, so what this read range activity will do, it is going to read the Excel data. So initially it will be blank. For example, let me delete this, so it will be easy to understand. Let me delete all this. So by default, this is how your file will be, right? You have written Bangalore climate data, temperature, humidity, wind. That's all it will be, right? So it is going to read the entire sheet. Okay, entire sheet 1 it is going to read. So how to define that is very simple. To define that, all I will do, select on the plus sign, hit on the Excel, and here it will automatically going to populate sheet 1. Now you will say, Rakesh, how it's automatically understanding there is only sheet 1? Reason being, here you are using the Excel file, right? Use Excel file, and you have referred it to the file. So it understands, it goes and access that file and understand, okay, this many files are there or this many sheets are there. It understands automatically, right? This many sheets are there. It automatically understands. So Excel, and I'm going to select the sheet 1. So it's going to read the entire sheet 1. Simple. And ensure has headers is checked. Okay? If in case it is not checked, ensure it is checked. Okay. So once it reads the data, where it is going to store the data, we have to create a variable and we'll give it a name called dt1 data table 1. Okay, so this variable is going to store the entire table. Whatever the tables are in this sheet, it's going to store it inside the dt1 variable. Okay, so once it has stored, the data is stored now temporarily in the dt1 variable. So this is the data table variable, which is going to temporarily hold the data onto a variable. Okay, it's just holding the Excel data onto a variable. Okay, so once it holds the data, next thing what I want, I would like to add a column, right? The next thing, I should first add a column. For that, there is an activity called add data column, and this add data column activity is responsible to create a column. If I ask you in Excel, create a column, what you do, you open the sheet, right? And here you type something. Let's say I would like something called name. Let's say I would like to create a column called ID. So what you do, you manually type it and create a column, isn't it? So now in this case, let me delete like this. Okay, so now in this case, for UiPath to add a column, this is the activity which will be responsible. And then this activity asks you what is the column name you would like to add. So what column name we would like to add? Timestamp, right? Whatever the value is there in the timestamp, the same thing we would like to add as a column name. So I'll simply say timestamp. So that means whatever value is there, depending on the value, whatever the value is there, according to that, it's going to create a column name. Okay, done. Now here we are dealing, remember, right now we have read the Excel and storing the data into a variable called dt1. So I should refer that dt1 variable here. So I'll select and type dt1. It will automatically populate. Select this. So here it tells, it will go to the dt1 variable and going to add a column called timestamp. Timestamp is nothing but the value it's going to capture, today's date and time with hour, minute and seconds. It's going to capture that value, and the same value column it is going to create in the data table 1. Okay, so we right now all the data has been uploaded to the variable called data table 1, and now whatever changes we are doing in the data table 1. Okay, so here I am adding a column. Okay, so once the column is added, we are not adding a column directly to the Excel file. That will be done at the end of the workflow, not now. Here everything we are doing through a variable now. In the variable, a column has been added. Okay, now once the column is added, so when I say column is added to the variable, what does that mean? This variable is a representation of this data. That means right now, before adding the column, this only has one column with this data. That means dt1, if you see, if you output data table, you would see the dt1 is only containing the first column, nothing else. Now the moment I add a column, if you output the data table using output data table, you will see there's another column name added, but there is no data. Okay, so this activity will add a column name, but there is no data below it. Just a column name will be added as per the timestamp. Okay, this is clear. Now, if this is clear, we'll move on to next thing. What is the next thing we want? We would like to add the values under it. At that time, whatever the temperature, whatever the humidity was, whatever the wind was, as per the web, right? We did the web automation where it goes to the Google Chrome and captures all the current values. Okay, so those values need to be typed in inside. Okay, it should be able to type it in a dynamic way. Now to do that, all I have to do, it's very simple but slightly tricky, because many people will use what, write Excel, write to Excel or write cell. So that is not the thing you should use, because it is a dynamic in nature. It's not a constant thing where you point out and write it. It is a dynamic way. It is going to change, because right now if I run the automation, it's going to create a column and add the values. Next time the position will change, right? So it is dynamically changing its position all the time. So write cell is not the right way. You should not use a write cell activity. I'm going to teach you the technique. For that, I'll be using a for each. Okay, for each row in data table. Okay, for each Excel row. Okay, I'm going to use a for each Excel row. So this is going to loop through the data. Okay, for each Excel row. And now in the for each Excel row, I'm going to mention not exactly for each Excel row, we will use something known as for each row in data table. Okay, because we are dealing with data table, right? So I'll use a for each row in data table, and here I am going to mention the variable dt1. Getting it? So this is going to loop through the data. This is going to loop through the data. So while it loops, how the loop works, it's going to show you this value, then it will go to second, then it will go to this, right? This is how the loop will run for each loop. Here what I will do, I'm going to use a switch activity. What I'm doing, I'm using a switch activity. Okay, now in the switch activity, I'm going to simply say current row dot item nothing but current row, item is column. Okay, now which column you need to define. There could be multiple columns in a Excel, right? Right now we have only one, but as you add, there will be multiple columns, yes or no. So here I am saying switch current row dot item means column. Which column name? I am going to provide this column name. Copy paste exactly. If you make small mistakes in the spelling, then this may not work properly. Okay, let me enlarge the screen slide a bit so that you can see it well. Okay, all right. So current row item Bangalore climate data dot toString I'm doing. So what does that mean? This is going to simply say when the loop is running, current row item Bangalore climate data, if you put in a message box, it is going to show first value as temperature, second value as humidity, third value as wind. It's just looping through the data, right? It is going to show the value under the Bangalore climate column. Okay, so that is the meaning. So once it show, because I'm using a switch activity, it is very important that we change the type argument to string, because what kind of a data we are dealing with string data. So I'll change it to string. Okay, now here there is an option called add a new case. I'll click on this, and the first thing I'm going to enter, because the first value could be temperature, so I'm saying add new case temperature. The output of this is temperature, humidity and wind, right? So I'm adding temperature. Then in the second case, I'm going to add humidity. Okay, now in the third case, I'm going to say wind. Okay, so let me explain once again what am I exactly trying to do. So here I'm using a switch activity. The value of the output of this particular, if you use a message box and test it, current row dot item Bangalore climate data. That means I am saying when the for each loop is running in the current row, under this column, you know, for the first time when it runs, the value will be temperature. When the second time it runs, the value will be humidity. When it runs for the third time, the value will be wind, right? So if temperature value comes, when the loop runs, if the temperature value comes, then what I want to do, I will use a assign activity. When the temperature value comes, then what you do, Then in the assign activity, again I am going to write something which is nothing but, I would say, current row. Okay, current row dot, let me slightly minimize this. Okay, so here for which one I am writing? For this assign activity, for the two I am writing. Okay, current row dot item. Okay, and in the bracket I am saying, if the value of that becomes temperature, then what you do, current row dot item. Okay, so here in this column I would like to add a value beside this, so I'm using this as a reference, and beside this I should add a value. So I should add a value. So what would be the column name? The new column name will be the timestamp. So here I am saying, so because timestamp a variable, I don't have to use a double quote. Okay, so I'm saying current row dot item timestamp. Right now timestamp is not there, but when we are doing the, if you remember, let me close this. If you remember, prior to this we are adding a column, add data column, so it's going to add a timestamp. That means data table 1 will have a timestamp. So here I'm saying, in the two thing, right, in this assign activity, here what I'm saying current row dot item, right, in the bracket I'm saying timestamp. That means the new column which has come, right, for that you assign the value temperature. Getting it? So that means what this activity will do, current row item timestamp means is go and look. Okay, here is the timestamp. Just imagine there is a timestamp has been already written. Below this you, I should write, because the current row is running here, so I am using this as a reference. So the value has come as temperature, so at that specific space you go and write the value whatever the variable temperature contains. So if you see current row item, this one equals to temperature, that means whatever the temperature value it has captured is going to enter into that. Okay, same thing I'm going to repeat for humidity. Copy paste, and here instead of temperature I'll simply change the variable to humidity. Okay, same thing for the wind. I'll copy paste, and instead of this I will say I'll use the variable wind. Okay, so what's happening right now, while the for each loop is running. Okay, I'll explain this. Okay, if in case it becomes slightly confusing, I'll explain once again. So look at this, for each loop is running, where it is running in the dt1, and the dt1 is currently, for the first time when it runs, it only has this data, and after that when it reads the range, it has only one column data. After the add data column, it will have a timestamp. For example, what is today? Let's say 17th, right? 18th, let's say 18th hyphen 06 is month 2022 with the timeline. So it'll add a data column. Now these things are blank. Okay, if these things are blank, here I'm using a for each row. Now the for each row is going to run for the first time when it runs. Here I'm using a switch activity, current row dot item Bangalore climate data. Now when it, for the first time it runs, for the Bangalore climate data, what is the value? Temperature. So it will go to temperature. Now here I am using assign activity and saying, what you do, current item, current row item timestamp, under the timestamp you add temperature. So the first time when the loop is running, it will come to here, because the condition will meet, it will come here and it's going to write the temperature value over here. Same thing with the second time when it runs, it will not go here, rather it will go to humidity, because this will match. If this match, then it's going to assign humidity beside this. Okay, now in the third time when the loop runs, this will match, so it will go and add the wind value under this. Okay, so let's see that how practically it is working. Let me delete this. It's a good practice to delete this in case you have written something to save. Now everything has been done. Now what is happening till now, all your values are getting written in the variable dt1. Okay, all these are happening for the dt1 only, because for each loop is running for dt1. Now to write it to the Excel, what you do, under this use Excel file do, in this do block. Okay, here I need to use a activity called write range to write back the data table. Write data table to Excel. Okay, this is the activity, write data table to Excel. I will use What to write? I want to write dt1, and then destination, where to write, select Excel, and I'm going to say sheet 1. In the sheet 1 you should write. Okay, that's it, done. Save it, and now we are going to run this. Okay, our file is like this. I'm going to close the browser, and I'm going to start the automation. Run file. Okay, I'm just keep the Excel file in the background so that when it writes we can see it. Okay, let the automation start. So this is the entire logic that we have used for the web automation. It's quite easy. Just try to do it on your own, the way I have taught you, exactly how I am doing. Then you will get to know how things are working. Okay, so the automation has started. It is opening the Google Chrome. It is opening the web browser. Okay, so this is taking slightly bit of time, and then on the web browser it's going to type Bangalore temperature. Okay, give it few seconds. Okay, now you can see it has typed. Now it should hit enter. It has done that, and then it should capture the values that are there on the page. 23 degrees Celsius, right? Wind 16 kilometers per hour, right? That means somewhere the rain has started. Okay, so once it has captured, it's going to close it and going to write that value into the Excel. If there is any error comes, we will try to rectify that. Okay, okay, now it's supposed to come and write the value. Get text wind 5 kilometers per hour 3. Could not find the user interface UI element for this action. Okay, so here what has happened, it is failing for this one. So let's see why it is failing. So let's go back. So if this kind of errors are coming, then we need to rectify. Something might have gone wrong in the selector. No problem, we'll rectify that. Bangalore temperature. Okay, maybe the way I have selected the selector might have gone wrong. Let me hit on indicate target on screen. This is for the wind, right? So I'll select wind once again, and I'm going to say wind as this element. Anchor 1, target. Okay, everything is selected. Strict selector. Okay, everything looks good. Let me hit on confirm. Let's run it again. Let me close this. Okay, so it may also happen to you. So try to indicate the element once again and see if it is right or wrong. Now give it few seconds. Okay, it has opened Google Chrome. And now let it type. Okay, now let this capture the data. Okay, this time it has captured, and now it should write the values back. Okay, you can see it has written the values back. Did you see that? So let me go back to the Excel. It has written the values. Okay, after an hour, if I run it again after an hour, or after right few minutes back, if I few minutes after, if I run it again, it's going to keep on adding new columns. So let me show that if I run it again, how it works. Okay, let me run that again. So this is a complete use case. There are so many other conditions, complexities we can add for the web automation, but at least if you have a good knowledge on how to design this entire web automation, definitely whatever conditions or situations comes, you'll be able to apply some logic. If you know what are those activities I should use, or what are those syntaxes I have to use for the web automation, definitely you can design any complex situation that could come. Okay, it has captured the data. Now see, it has done the task very fast and it was able to capture the data. So the values are almost the same because immediately have run, but after an hour if I run, the values might change. Okay, so this is the entire example of the web automation. I hope you guys must have learned a lot of things. So please do subscribe. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel because we upload on a regular basis a lot of knowledge around UiPath, a lot of new things that we feel that could help you guys. We try to upload that on our channel. So please do subscribe and hit on the bell icon so that you get notified for all the videos that I'm uploading on my channel and you can get benefited with that. Okay, and learning has to happen every day. It's right, it should not stop. So please ensure you subscribe and hit on the bell icon. So guys, till then, do take care. We are going to meet once again in our next video. Bye bye.